Hello, I'm Dr. Karen Braxley from the University of Georgia Intensive English Program, and I'm going to talk to you today about a punctuation mark, the colon. So colons are very common in academic writing, and there's one time when you always see them, and that is in the title of books and articles. So here's a typical example. The title has two parts. There's the top part here inside academic writing, and then there's some more information about the title down here. And if you saw this on the works cited part or the references part of your essay, you would put a colon between these two parts to separate the two parts. So that's the first situation where you very often see colons in academic writing. Another time when you commonly see colons in academic writing is to introduce a list. And this is a situation in which actually a lot of people make a mistake. So when you're using a colon to introduce a list, you want to be very careful that you introduce the list with a complete sentence. You don't want to put a colon after part of a sentence. You want to put the colon at the end of a complete sentence, and then you're going to introduce your list. So here's an example. My teacher has a very traditional approach to essay writing. So during her class, she made the following points. Place the thesis statement at the end of the introduction. Place each topic sentence at the beginning of each paragraph. Make sure that every sentence in the paragraph is related to the topic sentence. Make sure that every paragraph in the essay is related to the thesis statement. So that's a typical way to use a colon to introduce a list, but you have to make sure that you have a complete sentence to introduce the list. Another common way to use a colon is to introduce a quotation. And in that situation, you also want to have a complete sentence followed by a colon to introduce a quotation. So here's an example. In his famous I Have a Dream speech, Martin Luther King Jr. spoke these words: "I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." A third way to use a colon is to introduce an explanation, or better still, to introduce the answer to an implied question. So let's look at a couple of example sentences using a colon to do that. The first one is a very well-known expression. 3 things are important in real estate: location, location, and location. And in that situation, the colon is introducing the answer to an implied question: what 3 things are important in real estate? The other example is similar. In designing their study on exercise, the researchers overlooked one key point: people seldom tell the truth about how much time they spend exercising. So in that situation, it's really the same as the last time. The colon is introducing the answer to an implied question, and the implied question is what was the key point that the researchers overlooked? So let's summarize the 4 main ways to use a colon. The first way is to use the colon in a title to separate the 2 parts of a title. The second way is to use a colon to introduce a list, and if you do that, you have to be careful that you use a complete sentence to introduce the list. The third way is to introduce a quotation, and again, when you use a colon to introduce a quotation, you want to have a complete sentence before the colon. And the final way is to introduce an explanation or the answer to an implied question. So, good luck using colons. You can find more information about colons on our website, iep.uga.edu.